At this time, I'd like to jump back into the supervisor interface just to talk about a couple of the features that the supervisor has access to that the agent typically doesn't. When it comes to managing your contact center, one of the most important things is having real-time monitoring and quality assurance access. And that's the insight into being able to see what your agents are doing regardless of where they're located. And if you have a distributed contact center, that's one of the biggest difficulties that customers have, is being able to see what their agents are doing, how are they spending their time. And we actually have a quality assurance and real-time monitoring module that the supervisors have access to right at their fingertips. If I go into the Agent Management tab, I have access to a couple of things. I have a couple of real-time monitoring buttons. One shows me real-time statistics, a little bit more enhanced than what you saw on my desktop as a supervisor. I have all of my agents. I can see what state they're in, how long they've been on that state, the last time they logged in, etc. And then we've enhanced that, and not just given you the 10-second interval, we give you the ability to look at real-time statistics from the last 30 minutes, as well as from the beginning of the day. So that if you as a supervisor don't have time to go and run historical reports, you can still get a snapshot of what's going on with your contact center today. So I can see how many transactions each agent's accepted, how many they rejected or sent back to queue, what their average processing time is, etc. The other two components I have access to are the monitoring component and then the playback. And the monitoring gives me the ability, if I'm doing recording, to monitor live agent interactions. So if I had any of my agents on a live call, I would see a little icon next to their name. I would simply click on that icon, and it would populate the information that regarding the transaction that they're on. And at that point, as a supervisor, I would have access to either listen in on that call as a silent participant. They would not know I'm there. Or I could join the call, and that's typically what we call the barge-in feature, where I'm actually bridged on as a third party, and I can now engage in conversation with the agent and customer. A really, really terrific asset to have in terms of training new agents. And the last thing I mentioned was the playback. Once a transaction is complete and the recording is complete after the agent terminates that transaction, I can actually go in as a supervisor, select the agent that I want to review historical recordings for, select the recording that I want to access, and I can sort them by queue, by phone number that they called into, date, time, etc. And then once I'm ready to go ahead and listen to that transaction, I simply select it and I can play it right to this interface. And then the last thing I'd like to touch on is the historical reporting module. All the calls, the emails, the chats, the voicemails, we are capturing call metrics or call detail on those transactions as they come into the contextual application. So the minute they call the 800 number till the termination of that transaction, we are capturing metrics for your contact center. And those are available in what we call our historical reporting module. We offer you 28 predefined historical reports. They can be drilled down on agents, queues, media types, etc. You'll notice as I select the different reports, we actually give you at the bottom of the screen a report preview pane where you can actually see what data is contained in each report before you run the report. Personally, I love this feature because it saves you a lot of time in having to remember what data is contained within each report that you run in your contact center. You also have the ability to drill down on selecting or excluding or including, different agents or queues. And then you can be as granular or high level as you want with your data. And then once you select your data and your report that you want, you can go ahead and export that, and that can be saved in a CSV file or Excel spreadsheet if you'd like, so you can manipulate that data further. At this time, what I'd like to do is actually turn this over to Phil Robinson, who's a senior sales engineer with NetSuite, and he's going to step you through how you can very efficiently enter cases, orders, look at and manage your CRM right through the NetSuite interface. So Phil?
Okay.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I'm going to now show a new screen on the WebEx. Give WebEx a minute for everyone to see this. So what I'm actually doing now is sort of dovetailing from where Lisa left off from the point of view of a management role. And so here we're focusing today just on the support area. As you've heard, we've also got functionality around sales, marketing, and a lot of other things as well. So right now, here at NetSuite, I'm actually logged in as a support manager, and notice at the right-hand side, and which is an example of a role. And NetSuite supports dozens of roles out of the box. Here I'm just showing the support ones. And what this is doing is extending from the visibility that we've got from Contactual to really see more focus around things such as support cases. And because I'm a manager, I want to see things at what I call my team level. So you'll notice here a portlet we call our key performance indicators, where I can really have any of the data inside my CRM or NetSuite system summarized for myself right up here on my dashboard where I first log into the system. So here I can see, for example, with my teams, how many cases are open. So on Contactual, I could see, maybe we're handling hundreds of cases in a day, but how many of these are beyond the simple one and done, and they're still remaining open for today. And here I can see the metrics on how we're doing. I can see the number of cases that my team is escalating, the number that's on hold, and so on. And so you can really see that I can really have as granular or high-level information as I want summarized here on my key performance indicators. And everything inside NetSuite is drillable. So when I click on that 33 number, for example, it takes me down to the list of open cases that my entire team has. So this really allows me to have this sort of management level visibility that I need as a support manager focusing on that role. And if I wanted to, I could click on one of those support cases and really find out the details. So if anybody comes to me and says, how's the team doing? I know they're doing great on calls through Contactual. I know how many of the cases are beyond the simple one and done. And if I've got high priority cases, maybe they're very important customers or just cases that are being tagged as high priority, I can have them here directly on my dashboard. So without even having to drill into any part of the NetSuite application, I can surface any of the data I want directly right here onto my main screen. In fact, what's important to note is even though we're on the Home tab, or what we call a dashboard, because like any dashboard, it's configurable to tell me whatever I want, each one of these other tabs you see at the top here is another dashboard. So I'm not limited to just what you're seeing here today. But just to keep it very simple, we're sort of giving you an example of what a manager may want to have. I'm not really an individual contributor. I'm just tracking what's going on from a case perspective. In a similar fashion, when you heard from Catherine today how we can also involve support people in upsell metrics, we can have people tracking the sales of that and have those in the KPIs as well. Now to contrast this role with an individual contributor, rather than log out and in, I'm just going to do what every sales engineer does, which is with one click, change roles. And of course, this is just a demo, of course. And here you can see now that I'm an actual individual support person, or you could call these agents and so on. As you can imagine, everything is totally flexible in the system, including what we name them. So you can have total consistency between Contactual and so on. And here I'm really focused on not only maybe the cases that I'm taking in using the Contactual system, but the cases that I'm working on. So maybe I'm somebody that both fields cases and works on them, or maybe these are transferred over to me. And here I'm really looking as an individual contributor as to how I'm doing, as well as the high priority cases that I've got right here. And so, before I even go in and take a closer look at a case, if I want to just sort of get some background, if I know, for example, that Ultima Technology is a very important customer, maybe they're a friend of our CEO, I can even log straight into the customer record with one click, just to get an overview on the background. If I know that this is the umpteenth case that's been called in, and I want to just get an overview about who is this customer, I've just joined the firm, and what are they all about. This is the record that you saw a moment ago with Lisa, but really built out with some NetSuite data. And so this is a chance for me to come in and take a look, for example, at Ultima and look at things such as the sales information. If I click on the sales tab, I've got visibility into a lot of information there, as well as custom information. And if we look at the lower level of tabs, I can see the names of all the various people that are involved. So if I know that somebody's gone on vacation, I can have a look here and see, who are the contacts we speak to there. And when it comes to the cases, which is really my focus,